Hi all. Okay, let's carry on looking at Nimzowitsch games. There's one win from Kolsberg at least, which we haven't seen yet. So Nimzowitsch against Spielman, and not as in John Spielman, but Spielmann. So he was white, and I don't know. I keep looking at this game and thinking, oh, it's sort of ugly looking moves, but it's sort of like a reverse Sicilian Nimzowitsch variation. Which is good to play against the c3 Sicilian. When you're black in Sicilian, they play c3. Then playing a knight f6 mixes the kind of Alekhine defence with a Sicilian. Now here in this game, we have a kind of reverse variation with whites playing a kind of mixture of the Alekhine defence and the Sicilian defence. And for me, it looks a bit ugly. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, you know, what's beautiful about this game is that the end game was a bit like slot races, which I used to play with my brother Nick. Like the rooks, you'll see that, you know, they were like dancing around in the end game on like the F file, the C file. There were loads of like crippled pawns to sort of target. I mean, you know, on over here. So we've got a slot races end game from this very provocative opening. Okay. So how did this happen? So e5, c4. So as I say, it's like Sicilian reverse, but this move knight f3, so provoking black into playing e4. And you might think, well, what's the point of this? Well, the point is that this pawn later means that f3 is going to bite black and concede white f-file pressure. So knight d4, knight c6. It looks a bit ugly to me, this next move as well, knight b5. But you know, so it's provoking black again, just to try and blast open the centre. So cd knight takes d5, but white's got the semi-open c file as well now. Okay, so knight 1 to c3, knight f6, and now another sort of weird-looking move for the opening, but it seems quite logical, I suppose, to attack this advanced e pawn. So the provocation is kind of working a little bit. Bishop f5. Which means that the next move is okay as well, because knight d4 is using that pin against Spielmann's knight, and it means also bishop b5 is could coordinate quite a lot of pieces. So white probably stands much better now already. So not only he's got an opportunity later to blast open the f file, he's going to cripple black on the c file as well. So we're going to end up with, you know, at least minimum doubled c pawns, isolated a pawn, and potentially again doubled f pawns, isolated h pawn, which makes for a slot races rook and pawn ending, as we're about to see. So bishop d7. So knight takes, bishop b5. We're simplifying all the way to an endgame. Queen's off. I know. Boring, but Nimzowicz's strategy here: restrain, blockade, destroy. So he wants to restrain c5, this liberation here. So look at the c5 square and the c file here at work. So a3, I know, getting more pieces off. Yawn, yawn, yawn. But now this rook d3 is an overactive move, which Nimzowitsch describes, but it's in Spielmann's character to seemingly play, you know, active, aggressive moves. That's what he was sort of saying. You know, people need to stop playing like Steinitz's accumulation of advantages, and, you know, start just using prophylaxis on a wide scale. So here, you know, white's prophylaxis is working really. He's got a very secure position, and now the time is ripe for this peeling move, punishing white's early e4. This was also a very good way of beating Rybka, I found. If you ever played like I have done on the Play Chess computer room, when I got one of my friends a quad core machine, I was excited to try and test its power out, and I found if you played a really weird opening against Rybka, it would sometimes overstretch its centre. This is in the engine room. I found it was like losing lots of games because it overstretched, and later you could just pick up the centre in a hyper-modern style. So here, white has provoked black to commit to the centre, and it's just been bitten away here. You know, white doesn't, you know, what black doesn't want to also trade to give, you know, these pawns, these centre pawns, you know, they're just going to advance in the centre theoretically. So this is all pretty nasty already. So knight d5, losing the g7 pawn. Okay, but winning the d pawn. So what's Nimzo up to? Well, here he's got a very nice move, defending, attacking, restraining, blockading, all at the same time. This bishop d4. So protecting e3, restraining c6, attacking a7. look at these pawn splinters. The F file for the rook, isolated pawns, double pawns, isolated pawn. So what's that Bulgarian expression? We're going to make your pawn structure look like your grand's teeth. Well, that's happened again in this tournament. So Nimzo seems to be proving the master of double pawns and isolated pawns. So F takes E4 now after F5. So now bishop takes A7. Okay, so Nimzo at the moment, he's a pawn up. Rook D3 and now B4, further restraint as well as protecting the B pawn, but letting E3 go. So we get the slot races rook and pawn ending, which I mentioned now. Okay, so knight takes E3, even the minor pieces come off. So in slot races, which I used to play with my brother Nick, you know, it was just basically vertical and horizontal movements, and we used to anticipate each other. So if he might go somewhere with his vehicle in the game, you know, you could anticipate in advance and play an attacking move. Now here, you know, so the rooks are very good really, because look at this C file and the F file and these targets, and white's structure is slightly more compact, so the pawns are able to help each other because they're alongside each other, and here they're just vertically, these double pawns, obviously the nature of double pawns, and this poor isolated pawn. So entry point F7, but can black double on the 7th quicker than Nimzo? So use the old 7th rank on idea. Well, we're about to see rook F E1 offers another exchange which is refused. So black goes now a pawn down again. So 3 pawns versus 4, but the rook's coming to the 7th quite quick. But Nimzo also gets a rook to the 7th, which gives him access to G7 if he wants to defend G2. So now we've got this rook F7. So you could say, yes, this was a weird looking opening from white, something you'd probably never play. You're going to stick to E4 or D4 and occasionally play C4 or knight F3, but not play it like this kind of weird Sicilian Alekhine in reverse. This, you know. But anyway, so it's given white an advantage though, a positional advantage, because now rook G7. And white's better. He's got the potential to create an outside pass pawn here. He's got the potential also for the C file to hammer away at these double pawns. So king b7 h3, preparing also maybe to escape the king like this if black's not careful. But I think this pawn would have to be protected first, and then the king could unravel like this. And maybe get the h pawn and get a pawn going. So anyway, so rook g5. And now we see the other rook coming to f1. So rook f4. Okay, defending that queen side. Pass pawn though after c4. But so what's Nimzo up to? So check. Rook b5. Check. Has to be check because otherwise g2 is going to be lost. Rook g6. So he's assigned responsibility to that rook to protect g2, and this rook to attack and defend. Defend against the pass pawn and attack this c7, which the other fellow rook can also help out. So he's attacking and defending again. Okay, so he's winning that c pawn. So now it's becoming quite critical for black. 2 pawns down. So he forces a rook exchange to get one of his pawns back. So he's 1 pawn down now, but still worse because white's got the potential outside h pawn. And this c pawn can now be arrested in Nimzovich terms by the king, potentially by king coming to e3. Okay, or the rook coming to c5 is immediate as well. So defending and attacking, and the king actually, instead of going for that c pawn, is herding the h pawn now. So we have a comfortable rook and pawn ending here, and this is not the sort of game I'd normally cover. So let's just, you know, I know it's kind of dull positional chess, but that's kind of one of the things Nimzo was saying, that, you know, just because there's not much attacking or defending and the game isn't brilliant doesn't mean you know, we can't learn from it. We can, you know, positional play. So this exchange of prisoners, as Nimzovich would say. So we end up now with clearly a winning ending, technically. 2 pass pawns on the queen side after all of that. So king b5, and it's a simple matter of consolidating the advantage and herding the pawns forward, which of course Nimzo does kind of nicely, getting the pawns more and more forward. I don't know why black didn't resign now. He played on apparently. So check. There's just no hope here. So in this position, finally at move 70, Spielmann resigns. So weird, provocative opening, kind of reverse Sicilian Alekhine, Sicilian Nimzowitsch variation in reverse with a weird queen move, which is all very logical because it fractured black's pawn structure on the c file, and as well as the f file being used later, Nimzo was able to play this nice bishop g7 with the other bishop d4. So he is actually accumulating his advantages quite systematically here for this rook and pawn ending, and the white rooks appear to be conquering the black rooks, technically being able to defend g2, so not making the rooks on the 7th here less effective, and this rook consolidation here means white ends up basically with 2 connected pass pawns on the queen side. I know this is very, very brief commentary, but it's not really the most exciting game in the world. But from a positional structural perspective, I think it's interesting to show that a provocative opening can lead to double pawns and isolated pawns, and later a winning rook and pawn ending. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.